Hey everybody, welcome to the Absolute Cinema Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Eli.
I'm Jake.
And today we're talking about Thunderbolts. I really loved it.
I thought it was really good too. I think it was definitely like what the MCU has needed for like a couple years now. Like it's the multiverse saga started way back in 2021 with WandaVision, which it's been that long. And I think it's been a really big bumpy road. Like I haven't hated everything, but there's definitely been some winners and there's been some losses, let's just say.
Yeah, I think the problem is just that the phases 1 through 3 it didn't have a rotten movie in it until Eternals, which is in the multiverse saga. I don't know if I would say, I can't compare the cohesiveness of the Infinity Saga to the Multiverse Saga. I would just say because
you really can't.
Because some people try to say like everybody it had such a plan and it was so thought out.
Really, it wasn't. They kind of some stuff was kind of like just thrown at the wall to see what was gonna stick. Like I think the Thanos post-credit scene, like they didn't even know if they were gonna. I think it was because of the reaction to that. Don't quote me on this, but like I need to like research this again. But like I think it was like they just threw that in there just to see how people would respond to it, and then he ended up becoming the big bad of the MCU. Like, and even like I just learned this recently in Guardians of the Galaxy when Thanos shows up, James Gunn considered taking that scene out. He didn't even really want it there. It would disrupt the flow of the movie. So what they did was they changed it to where Ronan kills like his like minion to make the scene matter more. And so then they can help Ronan out while also kind of setting up Thanos for the big bad later. But that's a rabbit trail. But yeah, again, like point being is like Infinity Saga, while it did have some stuff that was kind of like just thrown against the wall, like it was like very well thought out. In the Multiverse Saga, I actually say this, I think there was some connectivity from WandaVision all the way up to Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, because it was like WandaVision was multiverse, Spider-Man No Way Home was also multiverse. They really tried to sell that WandaVision leads into No Way Home, which it really didn't. But like they both dealt with multiverse stuff, I guess. Like, you remember that when they were saying that it was like a multiverse trilogy: WandaVision, No Way Home, and Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, I didn't lead it.
It wasn't really. I mean, No Way Home and Doctor Strange 2 were connected because they came out like a couple months after each other. But still, it was a very incohesive trilogy. And then there was Valentina was showing up in like Falcon Winter Soldier, and then a few months later in Black Widow. Yeah, Loki was multiverse. What If came after that, and it was like showing all the different realities of like what happened with like the different branches in the multiverse. And so I think my point is like there's some connectivity there, but then I feel like ever since like Doctor Strange 2, it's been like struggling. It's like because even in between that there was Moon Knight, and it's like it was kind of like it was standalone. But like I was just kind of like, well, I guess this will tie in some way, but like it never really did. Yeah. Like we'll probably do another episode on this to fully dedicated to like what happened with like the Multiverse Saga at some point. But like just to keep it like bare bones now, because again we'll probably do an episode on this. It's just like they lost their focus, I feel like, after Doctor Strange 2, because it was like Miss Marvel and Thor: Love and Thunder and She-Hulk, and it was like, how does any of this fit together?
Yeah, that was I think a point being, I think the big change of plan was Jonathan Majors.
They had no way of knowing that he would go off and do like we don't want to touch on it too much, but like basically, yeah, Jonathan Majors really kind of derailed a lot of their plans. He's like that Comic-Con when they're like, he's the next big villain, and then it's like all the controversy started happening.
Like, I think it's too many problems to net down to just one. Yeah. Like, a lot of people try to throw out a lot of like one problem. This is the reason why the MCU isn't as good. I think it's just a multitude of reasons, half of which weren't even in their control.
Like COVID,
Jonathan Majors.
Chadwick Boseman passing away, know Black Panther was going to be a really big thing.
Totally.
And then he passed away, and of course they have no control over that.
Yeah, like there's a lot of things that weren't even in their control. So I do have a lot of sympathy for how, or maybe sympathy is the wrong word, but I understand why a lot of this stuff feels like it does.
Oh, another thing, James Gunn getting fired, like they had no control over that. That was the start. That was really kind of where it started.
Yeah, that was really weird. And then he came back in 2 days.
But he was already stuck to Suicide Squad, and so he couldn't really come back to do it for like a couple years.
Point being, I'd say Thunderbolts is the best written MCU movie since Endgame. That's my opinion. To me, it's kind of a toss-up.
I think that like, but yeah, those are like the best written projects. Like I still as a big Spider-Man fan, I still really have No Way Home up on a pedestal. Still, I know some people have turned on it in recent years, but I still really enjoyed it. Like which is stupid. I just really hold on to that first experience in the theater, which was really fun. Yeah. And so I still have it on a pedestal, and I really enjoyed Deadpool and Wolverine. Like we saw that in the theater like 4 times. And so that was just a really fun experience. And I was just happy to finally see like Hugh Jackman wear the Wolverine suit. And as a really big Gambit fan, I was happy to see Channing Tatum show up and like just absolutely nail it. But I can admit that both those movies have very thin plots. It's just kind of like it's like I've been telling you off camera. It's like nostalgia gimmicks is like the thing that gets you like just invested. Like it's like look at this person and then this person's coming back and all and yada yada yada.
Yeah, that's the reason I say best written, because No Way Home, I love No Way Home, and I think that people throw around the term fan service and, nostalgia and cameos in a way that I don't think is accurate.
No, this is where cameos is like really thrown out. Like whenever there's like any, like this isn't even just like Marvel, but like any like returning legacy character ever, people are like, oh, it's a cameo, and really a cameo is like a 1 second,
like what Stan Lee did.
One scene. Yeah, it's like what Stan Lee would always do. Yeah, like they're like a second or just one scene. Like you can't say that Spider-Man were cameos because they were in the movie for about like a good like 25-30 minutes. And then the Resistance from Deadpool and Wolverine, they had at least like 10 to 15 minutes.
And they were
that's not a cameo.
Integral to the plot.
Yeah, the whole point, it was leading into like the whole thing of like forgotten heroes and like almost forgotten movie franchises, which is kind of a little subtle.
It was like meta, it was cool, it served the story. Yeah. But I think like, what is fan service? What would you define as fan service?
I think I would define fan service as like kind of leading into like what the fans have been wanting. Like like with No Way Home, it was like they want to see a live action Spider-Verse where the 3 Spider-Men come together, and it was kind of leading into that.
So then, don't you want to serve the fans? Exactly. Isn't that who you'd want to serve?
Endgame was also a fan service movie, but like the difference is that had build up to it for like 11 years, and so Endgame like had all these little moments that could pay off, and it could get away with it because it was like the big finale culmination movie.
Yeah, I mean people throw around that term, but I think it's like ultimately is that not like inherently a good thing to serve the fans, to give the fans what they want? Like, yeah, exactly. I think that's a little bit something like it's gotten a negative connotation. Like people are like, like it has too much fan service and nostalgia, and it's like, well,
it's just if it's done right, then it's good. Like Doctor Strange 2 is an example of how to do it wrong because it's like, and also, well, that movie has a ton of other problems that I really do want to touch on at some point. But like just to keep it brief, I don't think they really knew what they were doing with that.
Well, you can call it baiting too. I think baiting is a word that should be thrown in when you're using it in that context, because then it was kind of like it was baiting. They used it in the trailers. They hyped us up.
Yeah, the Doctor Strange ones ruined it because they spoiled it in the trailers. Like that was a real.
And it was like kind of jingling keys in front of your face.
It was jingling keys, and those are you can qualify as cameos. So they all had like 5 minutes. Maybe Professor X is the one you could argue, but still, he's a glorified cameo.
Needless to say, but yeah, back to Thunder. Kind of a rabbit trail.
Well, again, we'll probably touch on this in a future episode to give it its own thing because like there's a lot more we could talk about this. But back to Thunderbolts, it's kind of like a nice breath of fresh air. Like we're kind of back to like good old fashioned Marvel movie, Marvel making. Like we care about the characters, and even like a big one, practical filmmaking. Like just one little thing that I really was thinking about when we saw it. I was like, I love that they're actually like outside. Like when they're in Oklahoma. And like they're walking through like the desert. I actually love that scene because I'm like, it actually looks like they're outside. It doesn't look like they're walking in front of a blue screen.
Yeah, and I think that's partly attributed to the director Jake Schneider.
Jake Schneider, yeah.
He's an A24 film director. A24 makes a lot of indie films that are lower budget and like kind of more unique and artsy. And bringing someone like him on to direct Thunderbolts, I think, really shows. Yeah.
And it makes it even better because, like, they have that Disney money, like that Disney Marvel money, but still he chose to use it with like practical stuff and was able to go like, cool. Even in the finale when it's getting like with the dream sequence, like I'm gonna be light on spoilers, but like when it gets light on the dream stuff, it's like they still find ways to make it as practical as possible. They only do CGI like when necessary.
And like your favorite movie's Rocky.
Yeah.
And the thing that Rocky is, or that Sylvester Stallone always says, that the the fighting is like
it's a metaphor of what's going on inside. He said this once, and like I'm gonna steal it from him. He said that Rocky is not really a sports film; it's more of a love story. Which I mean, I do kind of agree with this. All the boxing stuff is in the background. It's all about Rocky's like infatuation with Adrian, and so it's this whole grounded story. Like we're just following him, just falling in love, even though he's kind of like this rough around the edges, like kind of fighter.
Yeah, and the thing about Thunderbolts is that, there's CGI and there's that Marvel stuff, but like I was so pleased to see like the movie had a bit of a message.
Yeah,
it had something to say.
Talking about like what's the word again? I can't think of it. It was like
mental health.
Mental health. Thank you. It was like mental health, like loneliness, and like really
depression.
Depression. Yeah.
Yeah, and it had a message to say, and all of the CGI and all of the big superhero stuff that you get in the movie, like even just the villain Void. I loved how they tied Void in with the main
Void was a really
message that they were trying to convey about depression and trauma, and how to overcome that, or how to properly process that. And even though you are getting like these big MCU moments, like Marvel akin CGI stuff, it was it wouldn't matter if we didn't care about the characters, and the movie was so well written.
We'll say this:
the movie was so well written that we cared, and so when we get to the CGI stuff, it is serving the main message, and it's satisfying to see because it's the finale for the journey that the characters are on.
Yeah, which I think that's a nice segue to what I wanted to say next is the characters. I think this was a huge thing going into this one because it's like, again, because like they're not using gimmicks, they're like going off of who's already there. Like,
yeah,
I think the one person that people really cared about was Yelena, who was played by Florence Pugh, and she did an excellent job in this movie.
Yeah, she was.
I thought
great.
I think she was the standout character in this movie. But like everyone else, it was like really no one cared. Like, it was Yelena,
people care about Bucky.
It was Bucky. Yeah, I was going to say Yelena and Bucky were kind of two.
And they kind of knew that. You can tell they knew that in the marketing, and
I think Red Guardian was liked enough. I mean, I personally didn't love him in Black Widow, but I thought he was better in Thunderbolts because I think
it's maybe because he was there a little less.
That, and also he also had a genuine moment of like seriousness where he wasn't like joking around and being the embarrassing dad. Like there was that scene where he talks to Yelena. Yeah. That I really liked. I'm just having some like he's not joking around. He's actually legit being serious for once.
Yeah.
And then also there was the two other ones, John Walker and Ghost.
I love John Walker in this movie.
I really liked John Walker.
I hated him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I liked to hate him, but I also thought he was a good character where he's like like he wants to be Captain America.
I saw a clip today, bro, and I was like, I hate this dude. He's like. But that was the point of Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, exactly. He's this like government shill who they point to be Captain America, and you're meant to hate him.
Yeah, but in this
movie, when he first comes in that first episode at the very end, like I remember watching it back when it came out, and just being like, "Oh, I hate this guy."
And then in this movie though, they made him extremely likable, in my opinion. Even because I think this movie has a self-awareness that works to his benefit, because we saw it with a friend who was kind of a casual, not a casual, probably a little more than casual, but not a super nerd, not a super nerd. And he was like, he walked out of it, and he was like, I didn't even know who any of the characters were. He was like, I didn't even think they had good chemistry together.
Well, like, that was kind of the point, was that
that's what I think works, is that the movie knows that too. Like, the movie knows that nobody really knows who these characters are. They're not super cool. They're not everyone's favorites. They're not super awesome. And in the movie,
not a legacy character either.
And the characters acknowledge that. The characters are like, we don't like. So like Yelena says, we just all punch and shoot. And they're like, we don't know how to work together. And like every one of the other characters also hate John Walker. So that's what made him likable. Is that. We hated him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
But then in this one, the characters
since everybody else they're all like, he's such a jerk, it kind of makes him more likable, and you get to see more of his backstory.
He's kind of a likable jerk this time around. Like they made him like a hateable jerk last time around, but this time they're like, okay, we need to make him a bit more likable. I like the scene where it's like he tries to get Ghost like help him up, and she just walks right by him, and he just sits there. Yeah. Like I actually thought that got a good chuckle. Here's the thing. I think they redeemed Ghost in this movie, but at the same time, she still doesn't really have much.
She feels undeveloped. She feels like the least developed out of the whole group.
I think out of all the ones, I think my theory is I think they debated, because I know there was a death in the beginning of this movie, which spoilers, but I think for my personal theory is I think they debated between Taskmaster and Ghost to kill off. Like, you can't convince me otherwise, because like Taskmaster was ruined by Black Widow. That's my biggest issue with that film. Was Taskmaster was just completely ruined.
Yeah.
And then Ghost was also kind of a nothing villain, like who hasn't been seen since Ant-Man and the Wasp. And so I think they chose to keep Ghost because she had a little bit more personality and I think maybe a bit more star power. But I think they chose to get rid of Taskmaster because they knew, again, like the self-awareness you were saying, they knew people didn't like this Taskmaster.
Yeah, that's what I love about this movie is that it knows what it is, and it knows, it feels like it's very aware of the public perception and is in tune of where fans are at. Like a lot of Marvel movies, or some of them, the past few projects have felt like they just... Like, I'm like, do you even live in the same universe as us and know what we are expecting? Like,
yeah, like some of them feel like they're not even directed by a real human. It feels like they're just directed by just executives almost.
No, but the executives who don't understand what we're thinking. Even though they can hear us and they can listen to us. And it seems like they did with this movie. Like they...
Exactly, yeah.
Like the writers definitely seemed like they understood and were very in touch with what the general audience thinks, what the superfans want to see.
Well, I think this was written about 2 or 3 years ago, and so I think that was really around the time when they started realizing we need to lock in and fix this because we're going downhill. It's think about it, 2023 is when Quantumania came out and when the Marvels came out, so I think that's when they really started realizing, oh shoot, we need to pivot and fix this. And I think my theory, which again I don't hate Brave New World. I think for that one they were like, well, this one was doomed from the start, so we're just going to get this one out and just hope it does well, which it actually did fine, and I thought it was good until the third act, but maybe we'll talk about that at some point. But I think Thunderbolts from the get go was no, we're gonna we're gonna lock in to make this a good one because you didn't hear anything about extensive reshoots or changing stuff and blah blah blah. It's for Brave New World, Doctor Strange 2, the Marvels, and the list goes on.
It just felt like it was one guy with one vision who knew what he wanted to say.
The one thing I will say, I did hear this. No one talks about this. I did hear that they rewrote it because the original script focused very much on Yelena and Red Guardian, and the other ones were kind of in the background. That's the one thing I heard. No one talks about this. And that was before the strikes, I think. And so that was another... no one ever talks about this. That's the one thing I heard. And I was like, that's actually kind of a good idea.
Because Red Guardian is very much in the background of the final product.
Yeah, exactly. He's really not in it that much. Bucky also isn't in it that much either.
Yeah, I thought his inclusion to the Thunderbolts was a little weird.
I think it made sense because it's I think they used, again, someone put it best, they've used him in the Clint Eastwood kind of way where it's he's the guy who's done this before, so he's kind of the de facto lead. Elena Belova is the lead, but I think Bucky's kind of the one he's been through this before, so he's the one who can kind of lead them and he's kind of the Clint Eastwood Lone Ranger guy who's done this before. He's leading the new guys on how to do it. He was the Winter Soldier, and so he knows this better than anybody.
No, I'm not saying he wasn't
No, I know. Yeah,
I'm not saying he wasn't a good addition to the group. I think his inclusion in the group was good, and he added the right dynamic to it or whatever.
And I did see
just his motivation was why?
No, I can
why? At the end, when you get to the end of the movie, it's why? Why is he doing why is he congressman and then why is he
funny.
And then, okay, yeah, so he's congressman, it's fine, but then why is he then now working with the Thunderbolt? And why is he...
I did see this one question. This is a question that always comes up in these MCU projects. Again, it's a connected universe. Some people... This one person brought up, I saw, why doesn't he call, Sam... Because, the person says, call anyone, and so the question is, why doesn't he call, Sam Wilson?
Yeah, he looks at the Thunderbolts and is let's... we're going. And then he sticks on the team.
I think I will concede. I think the reason why he went with the Thunderbolts is because they were already there. And I think he probably didn't want to have to, call Sam Wilson... and try and see if he was available.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that would have made a bit more sense. It's but this is the kind of criticism every MCU project gets. Even back in Phase 2, people during Winter Soldier, people were why didn't they call Iron Man or Hulk or anybody? Where are the Avengers?
True.
That's the inherent problem.
That's kind of what that is.
That's the problem we have in Connected Universe. Is everyone starts questioning why is it this person here? Which I think some projects I agree with that. For example. Daredevil Born Again. I agree with the people who are saying why wasn't Spider-Man there?
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, it's it's not their project, so it's you don't really need them to show up because then they'll just steal the spotlight from whoever the lead is. Yeah. But at the same time, I think Thunderbolts maybe could have benefited from Sam Wilson showing up. And I'm not saying like in the final battle, but I think I'm just thinking it would have made sense if he did.
Well, yeah, I think so.
I'm not mad that he didn't, but I think it would have made sense if he did.
The thing with Bucky though is that like I'm just saying like he's a congressman. He seems like he's like believing in the system and the system works. And then there's a conflict with him in the movie that they kind of establish is like whether or not to stay with the system or like to go and do his own thing. And then I just was never clear on like why he finally decided to make the jump in that moment to be like, let's use the Thunderbolts to go and catch Valentina.
Yeah.
I just think that I just didn't understand that. It didn't bother me, and it doesn't bother me that Bucky's on the team because I think he's great, and I think he is a great addition to the team. I was just like, it's just never clear to me why he did that. Like, why is Bucky involved, considering who he is? Like, and then he sticks on the Thunderbolts, and he stays on the team. He's
the leader now. You could argue that he's the leader now.
Yeah, and I'm like, why? Like,
I guess he doesn't really have anywhere else.
Why doesn't he go to the Avengers?
Well, the Avengers are like not. Well, the Avengers are not even really around. Like, again, that makes me think, why doesn't he go to Sam Wilson? But again, I guess I can just concede and be like, in this universe, no one really calls anybody up,
except for the movie that the thing is about.
Yeah, exactly.
So, no, and I think the action, it felt good to have a cohesive universe. Despite that, what I just said, like, or why aren't people there? Like, it felt like we were
taking these
somewhere.
people and putting them together in just a big blender and just see how they interact.
Yeah, but also like we're going somewhere.
Yeah, like especially when this movie ends. When this movie ends, we really know where this is going. Like we've been talking about this for ages. We're like 1 year away from the next Avengers movie, and like, are we there yet? But I think after this movie, like I can say, like, yeah, I think we're there.
Yeah.
We have Fantastic Four though, and I think after Fantastic Four, we'll really be like there.
Yeah, Fantastic Four is where we'll be. Yeah, but that's been a problem for me for the past few years with the MCU. Is like, where are we going? And like, well, I guess we know where we're going. We're going to Doctor Doom and Secret Wars, but it's like I've been feeling like for the past few projects, been like, I don't think we're there. Like,
yeah, I know.
Civil War happened 2 years before Infinity War, and I'm like, we're 1 year away from Doomsday, and I don't feel like we're anywhere near Civil War level. At least is what I said before this movie. And I think this movie definitely pushes us more towards it, but I don't know. I mean, there's no
did better than Brave New World did in getting.
Oh, 100. I didn't love Brave New World just because it just was plagued by reshoots.
We'll talk about that.
I think that was obvious. Yeah. But I think this movie, but it's conflicting because the best things that have come out of the multiverse saga haven't really been super connected to the overall story. Like,
not really.
Loki season 2, pretty self-contained. Even season 1 was multiverse saga too. So like
both seasons were.
Loki was pretty self-contained. Thunderbolts seems like it's there's no multiverse involved with Thunderbolts. Like, yeah, it's really good, but it's its own thing, and it's not like blowing up the universe and like really establishing the big stakes that like are coming with Doctor Doom and the multiverse and Secret Wars. So I'm just a little bit like, like I just wish. I don't know if I feel the urgency yet. I got it more in Thunderbolts, but I'd rather not and focus on the Thunderbolts story because I love this story and I think it was super well written, but I don't think it really adds that urgency to the greater universe besides just the Thunderbolts are the new Avengers.
Yeah. Another thing to talk about, I think, are we allowed to go into spoilers from here?
Yeah,
let's just go spoilers. Well, first off, the death I was talking about before was Taskmaster, which who saw that coming?
Nobody cares.
But really, the thing I wanted to get to is Sentry. I love Sentry. I'm kind of mixed on Sentry, if I'm being honest. Okay, on the one hand, I thought his fight scene with the Thunderbolts was cool, where he's just like literally tossing them around.
And it was like it was all like one shot. It was just one continuous
thing. I thought it was cool. Like, yeah. But at the same time, I feel like they got rid of his Sentry side way too quickly.
Really?
And then jumped straight to his Void's personality.
What more would you have liked them to do?
I would have wanted to see him a little bit more like in his Sentry mode, and so kind of like flesh out that side a little bit, because I feel like he really kind of rushed to being like turning on them to then turning on Val. Like, I feel like that moved a little too quickly for me personally, and like the way they got rid of him, where there's just a kill switch, and it's just boom, he's gone. Like, I would have liked a little bit more time with that side personally, but which also we gotta talk about Val, but we'll get to her in a second. And then but I will say the Void stuff was really good. That really made for a different final battle than what we're normally used to. And then like I especially love the scene where like Red Guardian finally gets his moment where he saves that little girl, and it's just boom. She's just gone. Yeah. It was like that was kind of a crazy. Yeah, it was like no, but it's like again, and then also like at the very end of the movie, it's like he forgets that he was ever Sentry or Void, and so he's just kind of like there.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's fine because I like him enough as, like, normal Bob.
I think Bob is hilarious. I think his acting was great. Funny. I think his acting was great. I think he was great.
It's just my main little nit. This is literally just a nitpick, but, like, I would have wanted a little more from the Sentry side.
Yeah.
Because I feel like his Bob and Void personality got more screen time. But again,
but that's the villain. The Sentry.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Sentry's not the villain. Void is the villain.
That's true. So like, yeah, but like, it's like, what do you get, dude?
And I really liked Sentry/Void. And I really liked the inclusion of it because I don't know a ton about the character, but I at least knew that
I know I'm probably
it's Sentry, and then he has a dark side that's Void that comes out as well. And I really liked the way they included it into the main message that the Thunderbolts was trying to tell, where Bob is he's got this super traumatic childhood, an abusive father or whatever, and you know he's been on drugs and he'll black out and go like super crazy or whatever due to all this trauma that he has from his terrible life. And I loved how they made Sentry like he was just a test subject that was meant to be thrown away, and he actually survived the procedure. Now he has these superhuman powers, and he's Sentry. And then they kill him, and his like darker side that comes from his trauma and his past also has superpowers, and that's Void. Yeah. Like I thought that was really cool, and like so, the villain of the movie is basically like the embodiment of depression.
Yeah,
and
it's an interesting idea. Yeah,
like Yelena and friends and Bob, they don't beat depression/Void by fighting him. They
just hug it out. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
They do. Yeah. I wasn't gonna say it like that, but that is a funny way of saying it. Yeah.
Once that happens in the movie, they don't make it out. Yeah. They don't make it like seem like something stupid. They like treat it like they just treat it.
Oh like, yeah, and the way they beat it is by being together, and that's how they connect and form a team, and they're connected through their trauma, and they all have like we see the characters a little bit each, except for Ghost for some reason. But
I was about to say, I really wanted to say that. I feel like we could have really benefited. Like, I mean, we know her backstory from Ant-Man and the Wasp, but like we could have really. Yeah, they show it in Ant-Man 2.
Like her as a
they do show it, but it's like I know I meant to rewatch it, but I didn't have time. But like I still think we could have benefited from like maybe like a rehash of that, or maybe a new scene from childhood,
or a different angle. See. Like John Walker, we had a different angle.
Yeah, like I remember seeing the trailers. I thought for sure that John Walker was going to be a single parent, judging by the trailers. But no, it actually shows that like his wife just divorced him and took the kid with him. Like yeah. Just watching the scene, him looking at his phone, I thought for sure he was a single parent. His wife left him, but
which also was another way to make him more likable.
Like you show him like he's like, oh yeah, I have a loving wife and kid at home, and it's like, oh, he's like, yeah, no.
Yeah, and then Bucky's like, yeah, it's your fault. The wife and kid left you, and then you're like, oh, like, ew,
like Bucky knows about that. Yeah,
like, oh, I guess he's not so awesome. He doesn't have it all together.
Well, we knew that before Bucky knew, because like they show us the Void scene.
Yeah, but we didn't know that. We saw that they were having problems. We didn't know that she had left him and taken the kid though.
I kind of pieced it together a little bit, but like you could, but like still, yeah, I get that.
Like
I also feel like Red Guardian could have benefited from a flashback. Like I'm leaving Bucky out of this. It's like we've seen Bucky's past, so like we didn't really need to see it. They knew that too, because he's like, oh yeah, I've had a really good past. It's fine.
Yeah.
But like Red Guardian, I think Red Guardian could have also benefited from a Void flashback, but still like he already had that meaningful scene with Yelena, and like also that would be a lot of people's backstories to be flashing back to. So like that would have gotten a bit. Like,
and Red Guardian is basically the comic relief, so like
you can't do that with the comic relief guy.
Like he doesn't have to be traumatic, but they are all connected through their trauma and their bad upbringings.
And I thought the relationship between Yelena and Bob was really kind of touching. Like these two people, like she's like genuinely caring, like making sure Bob's like safe, and like their connection I thought was really good. Like Florence Pugh and I can't remember Bob's name, but like they really knocked it out of the park with that one.
Yeah, I thought, and he was great as Void and Sentry.
Yeah, he did a good job.
He was a great villain. It was great to see the progression into the villain. Like that was, I thought it was the whole thing was well written. It was good. There's
one character that I'm sure people have noticed that we haven't talked about yet, and like this is like kind of the villain, but kind of not, and that's Valentina.
Valentina Allegra de Fontaine.
Okay, thank you. I'm not even gonna attempt that name. But like, she is actually. I thought it was interesting. Like, she's not really the villain, but they make you kind of like want her like gone.
She's so annoying, bro. Like,
they make you kind of hate her. She's kind of like,
she's so annoying. I mean, Julie Louis-Dreyfus or whatever.
She does a good job.
She's great. I think she's always awesome.
It's just I want that character to get arrested.
Like she doesn't. I was a little disappointed that she didn't get her comeuppance. Like I was like,
I know. I kind of like that she's like the evil Nick Fury almost. I still want to see. I still kind of want to see like her and Nick Fury kind of duke it out at some point. I don't know how that would work.
Duke it out, like fight?
Like I would want to see them like always in a scene together. I wouldn't really want to see how that would go down.
Oh yeah, because he's still around, I guess, right?
He's still around. Yeah, he's up on Sword in the space station.
Oh, okay.
He's with the Skrulls doing whatever. But I still would want to see them together, just at least one scene. I want to see how they would play off each other and like the rivalry between them, and like to see like his flips, like literally his like flip personification. But yeah. I think she's still an interesting character, but still, I really want to see her like get brought down, and like they make you think she's gonna like they're gonna get her. And at the very end, it's like, oh, she just twists this and this thing that she was always playing, and she dubs them, which is why there's the art. What's the how do you pronounce the word? Like,
the what?
The asterisk, is that how you call it?
Asterisk.
Yeah. That the reason why there is that that's there is that they're the new Avengers, which I actually do kind of think makes sense. It's like there's no like what other active teams are there like around right now?
Yeah, I know. I thought that it was interesting when I saw that and they were like they're the new Avengers. I was like, oh, that's
then like it just rips like the very end like it's very end just rips off. So the new Avengers like you know what, it makes sense, and like I'm honestly kind of down for it. I like their dynamic. I could get behind these guys being the new Avengers, even though we know that probably won't last. But we'll get to that in a second. But I think the choice of making them the new Avengers is a really interesting choice, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Should they have done this sooner? Probably. But I think it makes sense. It also kind of pays off because like they kind of take that again, like you said, a self-aware right. They know we've been asking who the Avengers are since like the beginning of this saga, and they answer it by being like, "These guys are the new Avengers."
Yeah, and I'm completely fine with that.
Yeah, I'm down for it.
I think this movie totally earned that these people are people worth caring about.
And then I do like how they kind of show I would like to see like a legit scene with this, but I think this would have been too similar to the first Avengers, which are kind of having to put this in the credits, where they show the people reacting to the new teams. Yeah. Which again, I think, which also that's why I like the final battle, because it felt reminiscent of the first Avengers, but on a more grounded scale. Like it wasn't like as high flying as the first Avengers was, with like the Chitauri like battling through all New York. It's just like they're on the ground and they're like doing a lot more grounded stuff.
And they're just fighting.
And they're literally in the same spot though too, which also is a nice little touch.
Oh yeah.
And then, but again, I think that's probably why I'm sure they thought about doing a scene of them reacting to him. I think they realized like that would be too similar to the first Avengers film.
No, I mean I thought it was just fine how they did it. I thought it was actually perfect how they did it, where it was just the end credits where they show the reactions of the people.
And also made for like a different. It made end credits a little bit more interesting. Like it was not just boring.
Yeah, and it was funny and it was interesting and it was unique. Yeah. I thought it was great. I thought that was. I mean, I just think everything about the movie was just, you can tell there was intention and there was, thought and there was a plan, and that's something that I think that's what you've been missing for the past few movies.
One more thing I want to touch on before we jump to post credits, though, I wanted to touch on this real quick. The action scenes I thought were really good. I think I touched on this a little bit, but like I thought the action scenes were good. Like the jumping off the second tallest building in the world. Like pulling a Tom Cruise was really sick. Like all that for like I saw the behind the scenes of that. All that for a 2-second shot. Florence Pugh just dive bombing off the second tallest building in the world. Yeah. Even before she jumps off, where she's like inside the building talking to that scientist guy, I thought it was a really funny scene. The chase in like the middle of the desert, I thought was cool. The fight where they all get together, like where they meet each other in like that bunker, I thought was really good.
Oh, that was one of the best. That was one of the coolest scenes, I think, because they were all
and then when they start throwing the knife around too, I thought that was really sick. Them climbing up the mile hole, and that kind of took me off guard because I was like, they're actually doing this.
I was like, it was a little cartoony.
I thought that was funny though, because it was like, I thought it was like something different. And like, again, the desert thing was cool, where they're like being chased, and then Bucky comes in. And
that was a sick scene when Bucky's entrance. Yeah, that was really cool.
And then the final battle again was interesting, where they actually like show them saving people, which a lot of these like superhero movies we kind of forget to do that nowadays.
Yeah.
So it was nice to kind of see them kind of bring
and they were coming together.
Make them actual like heroes, like put the hero in superheroes where they're like actually saving people.
And I think they balance. A lot of people, I saw a few people saying like there's tone issues, or they didn't balance the tone or whatever for the movie. And I think the tone is actually perfect. Like I think they balanced it really well, where they, there's that scene.
It's kind of Guardians of the Galaxy-esque a little bit, but also it's its own thing. It's not like a direct comparison.
That's what I love. It's completely its own thing. The first sequence, it shows you that there's a distinct style and visual persona to this movie. Like when Yelena's taking down all those guards in that hallway, and it's like these long shadows, and it's like silhouettes as this one take where she's just going down the hallway and taking them all out in one shot. I was like from the beginning I was like, oh, this is gonna be a great movie because
I know, yeah.
And also it's color graded, like not that other MCU movies aren't color graded, but the other MCU movies it kind of it just kind of evens out to this one kind of color profile. Like you get kind of the same colors. It looks kind of gray, or like they all look kind of the same. The Marvel movies, the way and this movie
one kind of pops. Yeah,
like the color palette is distinct. It's like there's distinct colors, and they're kind of darker and grittier, which kind of match the tone of the movie. And that was really, pleasing to see. Not something you see, I feel like, in some of the past MCU movies. They just kind of look, a certain way, and they all kind of look the same. Not to say that they all look exactly the same, but it was a very distinct color palette.
So it was a very similar palette, yeah. And this one kind of breaks ground on that.
It really, it was like there's actual color grading going on, which to me was something that was awesome to see. And I think they really, nailed the emotion because it's really funny. I think there's a lot of really funny stuff there. Most of the jokes landed for me. I think it works. I think Bob worked. I think Red Guardian was funny. All of the characters were funny. I love John Walker.
I think John Walker is a better version of Peacemaker. I'm going to put that out there.
Yeah, and I think it was great. And I think they did balance the humor and the emotion. I shed a tear in Yelena Belova and Red Guardian scene, which is not saying much. I cry a lot at movies, but that scene got me. Great scene. I was like,
that's my favorite scene in the whole movie. Probably.
I love that moment when they kind of quit and like Yelena tells all of them off. She goes away, and Red Guardian comes to her and talks to her. I shed a tear, and I also shed a tear when they all beat Void together. I was like, dude,
yeah. Like I didn't shed tears or anything, but I remember I was getting moved a little bit. They're like, oh my gosh.
Like I shed a tear in some of those moments, and both of those moments, not even just because the scene like moved me, but because I was like, we're getting an MCU movie that has a point and is trying to say something about like depression and mental health and loneliness and like it had something to say. Now, is it as deep and profound as some other movies out there? Maybe not.
Definitely not.
But that wouldn't fit in the MCU anyway, I don't think. And I think the way they fit this in... Like, I just wish we would have gotten more movies like this before this. Like, the fact this is the first time we're seeing something like this in the multiverse saga, I think is sad. Because if the other movies had been more like this, I think it would have been awesome.
Yeah, I know.
Not to say that it should have been the exact same. I think there should have been different directors. But it should have been a different director with a different vision. And each movie be done in a way that... Because it was so experimental.
Exactly.
Like, this saga has been so experimental. And they've been throwing so much at the wall.
Just to see what was safe, but in a bad way. Like, not... Like,
but a lot of it didn't stick. And I think that... It kind of felt, unfocused, and this feels...
Well, they were responding to... Again, I'll keep this brief. They were responding to criticism of they never let the directors show off their own style, and when they finally did, I guess I think you can kind of say they kind of saw the good and the bad that can come from that.
Yeah, and then they just... And then some of the most recent stuff has felt very corporate and like very, manhandled and not giving the director their own vision. So it's like they gave the directors too much freedom, and then it was like, what are we doing? Are we going somewhere? And then when they were like, oh, we didn't go somewhere, then they just completely cut out the director's version, where you get the Marvels, where the director basically said she had no say. Like, she was like, basically Kevin Feige made that movie.
Yeah, they're like, oh, that movie we hired you to direct? It was like, we made it for you. Like,
yeah, like, this is what you're going to do. And this movie feels like the right mix of there's obviously a vision, there's obviously a goal that we're heading towards, which is Doomsday.
Yeah, but then people end up in places where they need to be in order for a future movie to happen.
Yeah, but there's one director. Like, there's still a greater universe, and it's still in this interconnected thing, but it's one director with one vision, and it was executed and thought out and well written, and that's what I think has been missing from the past MCU projects.
Which, speaking of that, I think this is a good segue to the post credits. First one is just a payoff of Red Guardian and
the Wheaties box.
It pays off the cereal box show, which that was also in the marketing. So I think it was a nice guy. I like that he shaved. I actually do like that. That's just a little touch, but that's just a little touch, and that doesn't really mean much. So that was number one. The second one is really the more one we gotta talk about, because this one was hyped up as like one of the best post credit scenes ever. And I saw that it was like just under 3 minutes. I thought it was good. I'm not saying it's bad. I think it was good at like giving us, again, it gives us a target of where Doomsday might go.
You know what's funny is that it was spoiled seconds before. Yeah,
it was spoiled because they again, it's like they say Fantastic Four main theme. It's like, oh, Fantastic Four are going to be involved in this.
Yeah, well, I was like, I remember we were in the theater and it was like showing the songs and it was like Fantastic Four First Steps main theme. I was like, where was that?
I was like, what?
Like, did we watch? When in the movie was that? And then it was like, and then the post-credit scene, the big review, the entire payoff of the whole post-credit scene is just that the Fantastic Four are on their way, which we kind of knew was going to happen at the.
Well, at least it shows how they're going to get here. Yeah. But then also, maybe it spoils the movie, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, because true. Because it's like, oh, well, then they survive.
Like, well, we know they're gonna survive because they're gonna be in Doomsday.
Yeah, but also like they come here in a rocket ship or whatever. They escape their world. Their world. Yeah, something happens.
I guess we're just left to assume something happens to their world.
Yeah,
we'll have to wait. We only have 2 months to wait for that one, so we'll have to see what happens. I'm still hyped for that.
I liked it. I thought it was kind of funny. I don't know how I feel.
I think it just got too long to get to the point. Like the first half of it is which I'll talk about this in a second. There's something interesting that's brought up in the beginning of it. And then the end is a Fantastic Four tease, which that's the payoff. Which still, I think it's good, but still, it's like could have done something a little bit more.
I was expecting, but the whole RDJ.
I thought that, and I was like, I don't think they're gonna go there.
I was like,
well, judging how they were talking about it, I was like, I don't think it's.
Yeah, everyone was hyping it up to be something like that.
Yeah.
So.
But then also, most of it's taken up by a Red Guardian branding joke, which I thought went on for a little too long.
Yeah.
I think if you could have trimmed that out, it would have made the post-credit scene better. But the big thing they bring up at the beginning is that there's apparently conflict between the New Avengers and Sam Wilson and Captain America. Which, I mean, we'll get into this at some point, but like, I don't really think Sam Wilson... I mean, I like Sam Wilson as a character, and I think he's a good Captain America, but it's just, to me, he just doesn't really seem like Captain America to me.
I think he's a good Falcon.
Yeah.
I think he's great. I liked him as Falcon.
So what they bring up is that basically it's like there's friction because Sam Wilson is like, we know this from Brave New World. He's looking to reassemble the Avengers, and so there's conflict because the Thunderbolts get rebranded as the New Avengers, and they've been around for about 14 months. So they're like, there's a big conflict because like Sam Wilson is like copywriting the name Avengers, and so now there's like a bit of debate like who's the real Avengers, and so I guess that's kind of, and also another big thing is that apparently Sam and Bucky are not on good terms because they say Bucky, didn't you try to talk to him? And he just goes, it didn't go well. And so I kind of take issue with that. I mean, he's like, obviously we have to have a little bit, we have to have some conflict for Doomsday to make it interesting. It's like we can't have them all be like buddy for like whenever Doctor Doom shows up. Like we have to have some sort of conflict. But like we already showed Sam and Bucky being such good friends together. That's the whole point of Falcon Winter Soldier, is that they learn to work together. And in Brave New World, we see them like again being like good friends, and then to see that they're gonna like break them up, but like they're gonna like split
over
them,
a name,
split them up over again. Well, maybe it's because it's like Bucky's with a team of criminals and like Sam Wilson wants like real heroes. But still, it's like I don't know how I feel about that. Like them splitting their relationship again.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know why they're splitting. Why is Bucky staying with the Thunderbolts? You know, like that's what I'm like. Why he used the Thunderbolts to help beat Yelena, and then why didn't he just like go back over to the Avengers with Sam? Like,
yeah, I know.
He stayed with them for 14 months to the point where it's like now they're at odds because he's still on the Thunderbolts or the New Avengers because he just happened to be there right when Valentina was like, these are the New Avengers. Like if he had just helped them out and then ditched. Well, I guess okay.
They need a leader though. Well, it seemed to me Yelena could lead them though.
Yeah, Yelena's the leader, I thought. But I guess like Bucky, like after the finale, I guess now he's part of the team.
Yeah, exactly, because he worked with them the same.
I like how he has the red star.
Yeah, I actually don't hate that suit. I think it's just that Bob is still there, even though he's not really doing anything.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure. I saw someone bring this up. I think they might make him like the new Bruce Banner, where it's like when all else fails, it's like he's like a code sentry.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like whenever they absolutely need him, it's like we need you to be sentry.
Well, I hope he's not utterly useless. Like I hope he does something.
Well, he's gonna have to do something. The next Doomsday, otherwise he's gonna get just off immediately.
True. Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought the post-credit scene was good because it was like it kind of gives us a hint to where
gives us an idea like there might be some friction between the teams, and also the Fantastic Four are on their way, and like we're about to see them interacting with all our primary MC people that we already know.
But not to say that, I mean, it didn't get me more excited for Doomsday than I already am. Like I'm already really excited for it.
I disagree. I think it got me a little bit more excited just thinking about it. And also, I did really love hearing the Avengers theme play again at the end. Because it's been a while since we heard that.
That's true.
And also it got me thinking. It also gave me that old like Marvel giddy feeling that like the other one's saying. Like thinking about like.
Oh, okay.
Because it's just like I'm just thinking like it's gonna be like at first I was like before this movie I was kind of like are they gonna be able to pull this off like. Again, I still think that they're using gimmicks with certain X-Men characters, which we'll talk about this. I do want to talk about that at some point. But I think I was thinking about it yesterday after we were watching it, and I was just thinking to myself, you know what? It's going to be an Avengers movie. It's going to be fun to hear. It's going to be fun to see them all come together with that team-up energy, and like it's going to be fun to hear the music again.
Oh, totally.
So it's like I'm hyped. I'm just kind of hyped for it. And also, I am hyped about those X-Men people coming back too. Yeah. So it's like.
Side note: the Thunderbolts theme I thought was really cool because it's kind of like a reversed Avengers theme. Like
a little bit.
Instead of it's like if you listen to it, I thought this was a cool detail. And if you listen to it, it was kind of like the Avengers theme and like Thunderbolts is like I'm not gonna sing the Thunderbolts theme. But it's like it kind of is like the reverse of that theme. It like goes down. So it was just listening to it. It sounds, and then at the end when they are announced as the new Avengers, then it kind of merges into the Avengers theme at the very end there. Yeah. But like the whole movie, I kind of like that because it was like this thing of like they're like kind of like the anti-Avengers or whatever. And
I thought for sure they were going to be named the Dark Avengers. Really? But at the same time, I was also thinking like once the trailers started coming out, I was like, no, this seems a little too lighthearted to be Dark Avengers. And I was like, I don't know what they're gonna name themselves then.
I liked where they landed. Yeah, and I think that the movie was great.
I like them together too.
I think legitimately it's one of the best MCU movies. Definitely, it's either that or Guardians for best post Endgame. I also think one of the best written ever. Yeah, because it really made you care about these characters. It gave cool fight scenes, cool action scenes. But it all tied together in a way that was cohesive and had a singular message and a voice, and it added something like positive to this world. Exactly, yeah. You know, like it gave something that means something that will last. It kind of matters beyond just it being a Marvel movie. You know, like it actually.
And it felt like a real movie again.
Yeah, like it felt like
someone actually made this with love.
Yeah, I think that's due to the director, you know, being an A24 director. But I think I think it all worked. I think. Like, it really worked for me. I was enjoying every second of it. I was like, is this going to go where I think it's going to go? And then when it went there, you know, it was satisfying. I think everything, you know, worked. I think Sentry worked. I think Bob worked. I think the team chemistry is there. All of these performances are great. The directing was great. It has its own visual flair. The music was good. There wasn't like needless pop songs, you know.
Exactly.
It was all.
It didn't feel
like
it was trying to knock off James Gunn's soundtrack.
Yeah, it didn't even feel like Suicide Squad at all, in my opinion.
No, it really didn't.
You know, like it totally feels like its own thing. And again, I wish we would have got that. Like, I wish every movie in the Multiverse Saga felt like its own thing. Yeah. You know, like I wish everything was like a stepping stone to the next thing. But I feel like feels distinct.
This is gonna be a good sign, like the show. Like people like it when they do stuff like this. So maybe like in the future they'll start making their more movies feel like real movies again. And like,
it's doing okay at the box office, and I think it's really gonna grow legs.
Yeah, it'll definitely grow.
Because I think word of mouth is gonna be really good because it has great Rotten Tomatoes. You know, I think people are really enjoying it. I really enjoyed it.
I also enjoyed it. Yeah,
like it was.
I would say final verdict. I would give it probably an 8.5.
I'd say a 9. 9/9.5. I think like it really worked for me.
Really?
Yeah, I would say.
Okay, I would.
Hashtag absolute cinema.
I would say it's hashtag absolute cinema too.
Yeah, I mean I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
It's almost like that's our name or something.
Yep. It was great. I enjoyed it. Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed over our rambling thoughts and review of Thunderbolts. We both really enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. Let us know what you think. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. I just had to, make sure to check out some of our other episodes. We'll be coming out with more episodes very soon, so be on the lookout.
We'll also probably touch on some of these topics that we kind of loosely touched on. We'll probably dive deeper in future episodes if you want to hear more like in depth about some of these. But we just wanted to keep it a little bit more like tied to Thunderbolts. But
we're just starting out, so help us out. Follow, share, all that great stuff. If you like what you see, please let us know, and also let us know how we can improve. So thank you so much for listening. I'm Eli.
I'm Jake.
I'll see you guys next time.
Have a good one.